Jesus Christ. Oh, my...
Greetings.
Hello everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day, and today guys we're going to be going over my level 50 to 100 rogue guide for season 1. Now we are about a week and a half into season 1, and I know a lot of people are starting to progress through their Paragon board and head into world tier 4, so I feel like it is just a really good time to maybe go over how I would level my rogue from 50 to 100, because I know you guys are probably following a bunch of build videos or a bunch of build guides and you just see the Paragon board set up, but that doesn't reflect how you actually go through the Paragon board. So I'd like to kind of show how I do the Paragon board, how I kind of like min-max everything to try and get more damage when we don't have enough points, get over to other nodes or other glyph sockets. I just want to help you guys try and get the most out of your build as you level it from 50 to 100. Okay guys, so this is only going to be Paragon boards and what hearts I would recommend you guys to take or try out with Rogue for season 1. This is not going to be skills or what aspects are good or what aspects you should go and take. If you do want that information, I will leave a link in the description below to my previous video. I do a 1 to 50 leveling guide for Rogue, but it is kind of taking in account of the Rogue builds that I have done. If you're not melee Rogue and you're not using Frostbitten aspect or Noxus Ice or anything like that, my builds probably aren't going to appeal to you, and this Paragon board is going to be a lot different to how you guys might put yours together. But I would still like to show the leveling process and also my thought process on how I go through the actual Paragon board. So I don't want this to be super long because I'm sure you guys have probably seen a million Paragon boards and a million ways to set them up. But again, I just want to kind of show like my initial thought process on how I go through the Paragon board. Now, everyone starts on this one first, and I like filling this out a little more before we start heading into the other boards because we are going to get a nice damage increase from this first section. So I do like to go through and we're going to get these magic nodes. Whoop. We're going to get all these magic nodes, the rare node. This is just going to be a nice, just flat out damage increase. Now, the first glyph I'm using here is Combat Glyph. I feel like this is just a really good one to start off with, mainly because of that bonus. Skills that critically strike restore 12% of their energy cost. So when you start off as early game as Rogue, you're not going to have a lot of energy cost reduction. You're not going to have a lot of cooldown reduction or any of that kind of stuff. So when you are using certain core skills, you can burn through your energy pretty quickly. So I find that the Combat Glyph does mitigate that with its bonus. And when you're someone like me that likes using Twisting Blades, we're able to get more Twisting Blades out without having to try and micromanage our resource. So because we are taking Combat Glyph, we do want intelligence. So we are just going to fill out these 2 intelligence spots. We are going to get these spots here. We are going to fill out all the magic nodes and the rare node, so we can get another nice damage increase, which will then give us the bonus for the glyph. Now we have a nice 10.7% increase to critical strike damage, which is a nice damage multiplier to have. I do like to put 2 points here just to give us more armor. We do have the bonus requirement, so we are going to get another 100 armor. Very good for survivability. We are going to go over and get our board. Now again, your boards are probably going to be a hell of a lot different depending on what build you guys are actually using. For me, the first one I like to take is Tricks of the Trade. Now I do like to rotate it like this, where we have the legendary node kind of adjacent to the bottom section we're coming in from. We're going to take all these common nodes until we can get to the rare node. And this is going to be, again, another nice damage increase, this time to enemies that are close. And because we are running a melee rogue build, basically every enemy we fight is probably going to be close. So this is going to be a nice, just close damage increase. And it's also, we get damage reduction from these nodes. Now, we are going to head up to this point, and I kind of stop here. And the main reason being, you do have 8 points to get to Tricks of the Trade. We have 6 points to get to the Glyphs Locker. Now, I'm going to personally put 6 points here because we are going to get an early damage increase instead of having to wait the full 8 points to get to the legendary node. Now here I will just throw the closer glyph in for now, and then I will put 1 more point here. Now if you're someone that doesn't like backtracking, or if you're a little bit stingy, or you're a tight ass with your money,
no more money,
and you don't want to have to respend to respec, don't worry about this. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Just go straight over and get your legendary node. But I do like to go this way because we are going to get a 5.3% increase to cutthroat skill damage. Otherwise, we wouldn't have if we went straight over for the legendary node. Now that when we get our next Paragon point, we have 8. But we wouldn't technically put this here. We'd start respecking. And now we go this way with our 8 point to get our legendary node. Now we have a 25% increase in damage, which we wouldn't get if we started building out this glyph socket more. Now we can put our extra points back here. Now I'm going to take the closer glyph. I'm going to put that on level 1 because no one's going to have a level 21 glyph at the start of the friggin' game. I do personally like to go over to the rare node here first because this increase to elite damage is going to be, again, way more than what we can get early game from this building out this glyph. But now we come back and now we start building out the glyph. And then I like to head up to this way to get all these magic nodes as well as this rare node. Havoc, this is going to give us increase to critical strike damage and physical damage. Massive increase, very good to pick up early. We are going to go down this way. I'm going to get the strength because strength is a little hard to come by. So we do want to follow along the bottom like this, and then we're going to get our next board. And the next board I personally like to take is going to be exploit weakness, because that legendary node is going to give us a very nice damage increase to vulnerable enemies. Now I do like to have it where we have this damage to injured enemies. It's kind of like on the top here with the glyph and the legendary nodes bang smack in the middle. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fly up here and I'm going to get all these magic nodes, which are going to give us increase to vulnerable damage, as well as the exploit rare node, more vulnerable damage, more damage to injured enemies. Injured enemies don't really care about, but the vulnerable damage is a massive increase to get. It is only, I think, 7 points to get down to the glyph. It's going to be 11 to get down to your legendary node. So it's up to you what you want to do. You can go straight to the legendary node if you want to. I personally like to go this way along the top, getting ready for when we do increase the radius of this glyph. And then we take all the dexterity here. Now I'm going to be taking the frost feed glyph because my build is prioritizing chill and I want more damage to chill, as well as increasing that chill effect by 20%. So now we are going to go down and get artifice, which is more vulnerable damage, more dexterity, which is going to help this glyph out. And then we are going to put another point of dexterity here just so we can get the bonus on this glyph. Now whatever dexterity glyph you are taking here, if you do choose to run dexterity glyph, you're always going to get the bonus because we do have that plus 40 to dexterity. Now we're going to go ahead and get this juicy vulnerable damage first, and then we can finish up putting the points in the glyph. You don't have to put these points in here if you don't want to, because we do have 45 plus 45 dex, which is a decent increase, but just because we're a damage whore, we are going to take an extra 5 plus 5 to dexterity just to give us more damage to chilled enemies. Now we can start making our way down to this legendary node. Doesn't really matter which way you want, take what stats you want to prioritize a little bit more. Now from here we want to come and get all these magic nodes as well as the rare node, the unassailable. This is going to give us damage reduction to vulnerable enemies, which is more survivability, and a little bit of armor, which is extra survivability as well. We're going to take all these common nodes until we get to the next board. And the next board we are taking is cheap shot, because I am prioritizing a lot of crowd control. This is what's going to work best for me. So we're going to go along like this, and we are going to take all these magic nodes as well as the rare node calculated. This is going to give us more damage to crowd control enemies and some armor as well. And then from these magic nodes, I like to go up here. We're going to get all these magic nodes as well as the devious rare node. Again, this is more damage to crowd control enemies. Who would have guessed it? Now the glyph I like to put here is control. This is going to give us damage to crowd controlled enemies, and we have a decent amount of intelligence we can pick up here. The reason I put this here is if I make this level 15 is we can get a bit of intelligence on the outside that you can't otherwise get when this isn't level 15. So if we just go ahead and fill in these now, we want to take all these magic nodes as well as the rare node, because it's going to be damage reduction to slowed enemies. And then I do like to come up here and then get this intelligence, which then gives us more than enough intelligence to actually get this bonus, which is a really strong bonus if you are applying a lot of slowed or chilled, or if you are stunning or freezing enemies, which with the build that I'm running, we are doing all the goddamn time. Now we can come over here and we can get all these magic nodes as well as the rare node. This is all just going to give us damage reduction from elites as well as some armor, which is going to be very good for survivability, especially if you're pushing high nightmare dungeons. We're going to come down here, finally get the legendary node cheap shot, and then we want to continue down and we want to get all these magic nodes as well as the rare node oppress. This is a really good section here. This is going to give us increase to crowd control as well as critical strike damage to crowd control enemies. And if you get the bonus, even more damage to crowd control enemies. Yay! Really spoiled for choice here, guys. You can really go this way or this way. It's completely up to you. Now this is something new that I definitely haven't done in a lot of my other builds, and that is use a 5th board. Now the last board I am going to take is the Eldritch Bounty. Now this is going to give us bonus to imbuement skills, and I am running a lot of imbuement, so this is going to be very beneficial to me. Now for the last 18 points, we are going to go up here. We are going to take imbued skill damage magic nodes as well as the potent rare node, which is going to give us more imbued skill damage as well as plus 10 dexterity. We do want to take the strength here, because this node, that the glyph that we are going to be taking is going to be needing strength. Now I'm going to be putting turf here, and turf is going to be really good because we're going to get an increased damage to close enemies. But the main thing I want is the additional bonus, which is we gain 10% damage reduction against close enemies, and we're able to get that bonus. So we are able to get the bonus, and we are able to get a nice 50% increase to damage to close range enemies. Now I forgot that we do have 1 point left over, and I forgot that I didn't actually fill out the damage to elite. That's probably the best spot for this last point. Again, you could probably take anything like armor, strength. It's really up to you. I just forgot to obviously put that point there. So here's the final quick overview of all of my Paragon boards. Hopefully this does kind of help you guys in like setting out your own Paragon board, or maybe you're trying to experiment with stuff. I feel like the best and easiest way to do this for yourself is just go on to max roll and just play around with the Paragon boards. Like start switching them around. Can I go over and get like a 5th board like I figured out that I could actually do if I took some points out of some certain areas. I really do enjoy the Paragon board and all the diversity and optimization you can actually get out of it. Now that we have done with the Paragon board, I quickly want to go over some really good hearts that you guys can use for Rogue inside of Season 1. Now, most of you guys probably know what hearts are good. You probably played around with a lot of stuff, but for anybody that hasn't, and you still would like to know what hearts are really good in Season 1, hopefully I got you covered. Now for anyone that is running Frostbitten Aspect or a Frostbitten Rogue build, I think it's no surprise that the cluster munitions caged heart is going to be really good for just about anyone using the Frostbitten Aspect. So what this heart does is we have a 20% chance on lucky hit to launch 5 stun grenades at the enemy, because we are melee. It's just going to drop on the enemies that we're attacking. And this is really good because this is just going to proc with Frostbitten Aspect instantly. If you're stacking high critical strike damage, you're going to be freezing a lot of enemies a lot more often, and it kind of mitigates you needing to use the surprise aspect, or whether you're using the one where you break out of stealth and you drop stun grenades. You kind of don't need that. This will probably give enough stun grenades to be able to continually freeze enemies, but if you do want more instantaneous stuns, then you probably are still going to want to go for the aspect of surprise. Arguably, probably one of the strongest hearts for just about any build, especially if you are stacking a lot of critical strike chance, and that is the Caged Heart of Tempting Fate. This is just going to give us a flat increase to critical strike damage, but we do take a slight buff to our non-critical strike damage, which is basically all damage that we're doing that aren't crits. Honestly, this balances itself out. You crit like an absolute truck, and you kind of even don't notice that nerf that you're taking to yourself with the damage reduction, because you are just critting for an absolute shit ton now. So this heart is very strong. I'm not personally using this, but I do see a lot of other people use this, and that is the Cage Heart of Dark Dance. This is every 5 seconds while you are above 60% health. Your core skills will cost life instead of resource, and then you're going to get a 21, or you're going to get a 20 to 30% increase on your core skill damage when you are draining life instead of using resource. I think it'd be fun to play around with, but if you want to push higher nightmare dungeons, you probably don't want to be losing too much health before you actually get hit, because if you do get hit, you'll probably get one shot. Now, arguably my personal favorite heart of the whole entire season is Cage Heart of Trickery. Now, whenever we use a subterfuge skill, we are going to spawn a shadow decoy at our location, and it's going to taunt every enemy in the area, and they're all just going to get lured into him, and then he eventually explodes after a certain amount of time. Or do you have like a 4 second or a 5 second? I'm not sure if it goes lower than 4 second. I haven't actually gotten like a level 5 one. It does really good damage. You can CC the whole room, and it's going to be fantastic for survivability and trying to push higher nightmare dungeons. So next up, we do have the Wraithful Hearts, and I think it's no surprise that most of the Wraithful Hearts are really good to use with just about any build.
You're no fun.
What? I'm fun!
Personally, one that I am enjoying with Rogue is actually Vile Apothecary. Now, Vile Apothecary, our attacks have a 5 to 15% chance. Apply all abuments at a reduced potency. Now, potency can be different depending on what level heart you get. Here I'm showing off like an 80% potency one. Now, this is really good because I do think I need to test this a little bit more, but I think the Vile Apothecary, because it applies all your abuments, it is applying all of your abument skills. Like when I use Puncture, the shadow, when an enemy gets hit with shadow, they do explode and I do get resources back. It's hard to test the other ones, obviously, with poison and cold imbuement, because they work differently to shadow. Shadow's just really easy to see it working in real time. But if shadow's working, it's hard to think that your poison skills you take and your cold imbuement skills you take wouldn't also be applying as well. So I need to do more testing, do not quote me on it, but I think that's how Vile Apothecary works. But either way, we're able to apply all our imbuement, so it's going to proc all our imbuement aspects as well, so keep that in mind. But yeah, Vile Apothecary is quite strong and I am enjoying it a lot. Now, of course, Barber Heart, I don't think this one needs any introduction whatsoever. I think we all know how this works and we all know how strong it is, but I want to also kind of touch on some negatives. Now, I could sit here all day and try and explain all the negatives to you, but I'm just going to direct you to an absolute legend called Zario. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, dude, but I will leave a link to his video in the description. He does do a real deep dive on how the Barber Heart actually works and some negatives it does oppose. And just to quickly scratch the surface for you, one of the biggest issues is rogues use puncture to apply vulnerable. That does not work when enemies are building up the damage from Barber, and a lot of CC doesn't also work when you're trying to build up damage from Barber. But I highly recommend you go and check his video out. I will leave a link in the description. He's going to explain this a lot better than I can. Now next up we have the Creeping Death Heart. Now what this heart lets us do is our damage over time effects are going to get a 46% increase based on how much crowd control we have on the target. Now Unstoppable and Stagger bosses are just going to take a flat basically 150% extra dot damage. Now this heart in no way, shape or form is bad. I think it just gets overshadowed by Vile Apothecary and also the Barber heart. I was testing this out and you can get some really strong dots, but I feel like it's a lot of if, ands and buts to actually try and get this to work. The enemy has to be poisoned with our damage over time, and then we have to stack crowd control on that target. Now most of the time when I was trying to stack crowd control on a target, I'm killing them before I can even get like the amount of crowd control I want on them to see how big the dots I could get. Now when I start pushing higher nightmare dungeons with this build, maybe this heart might start pulling ahead a little bit more because the enemies are going to be surviving a little bit longer, and maybe I will be able to apply more CC and get those dots to continually start ticking more damage. That's basically it for me, guys. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. I didn't want to make it too long because I know that's just an absolute nightmare to try and watch like a 20-minute plus video just to get the information that you need, but there is a bit of explanation that goes into this stuff, unfortunately. I appreciate all love and support on the Diablo content as always, guys, and until next time, stay safe, peace out.